All right, we are live, baby. Let's go live on Instagram as well. Okay. I'm on. There we go. We got Ocean Birth with us, which is what's most important. So great to see you again, everybody. This is Eric Klopper, or Attorney Klopper, coming to you live from Los Angeles. Would love to hear from some of you how how the stream is. Right, we're still working on that. We're going to do a little work over here. Let's see. There we go. We were back, baby. So, this is day six in a row, which is pretty good for me. It's actually the most social media engagement I have done ever, with the exception of promoting the sex and circumcision. Oops, not supposed to say those words in the first 10 minutes. John, you look like you need a day off, and that is true, but we're not there yet. Although we are in better shape than we were. Hi, Eric and chatters. Great to be back on the stream. As you may know, if you've been joining us for multiple days in this stream, we are here promoting Intact Global's. I got a bunch of these shirts. It's not the same shirt every time. Intact Global's upcoming conference, March 29 to 31 in Portland, Oregon. We're getting, ticket sales every day, right? Which means it's going to be a raging success. I'm very pleased. That's why I keep doing these streams. It's not for naught, as they say. Once we have a few more people log in, we're going to talk about, what you can expect at the conference, what type of litigation is upcoming for the Intactivist movement, the movement to protect all children from unnecessary genital cutting at birth, right? And how we're going to protect children's rights, protect children's bodily autonomy, and protect children's choices, right? We want to make sure that everyone can make the important decisions about their own body, those that can be deferred until you're an adult, right? Because the vast majority of the world doesn't do this incredibly invasive and harmful practice against children. And I have great faith that, the millennial generation, so my generation, the 30s and younger, we're not cool with that type of practice. It's overtly stupid. And we're going to stop it. And we're going to do that by challenging the practice in various courts of law, arguing that it violates constitutional guarantees of equal protection under the law. Because for 30 years, this country, the United States, has protected all girls from unnecessary genital cutting, which is great. And we want to do that. At the same time, if you have constitutions that guarantee equal protection under the law on the basis of sex, well, those type of laws would violate those constitutional protections. So we're going to have to fix those discriminatory laws and protect all children equally, right? And so that's really the basis of the lawsuit. Wrap it up real quick. So again, this is the clickable link for the conference tickets. So definitely click on that link below. You should see it like right here where I'm pointing. And I look forward to meeting you there, because there's going to be at least eight attorneys giving presentations. We're going to have panels. We're going to have breakout sessions, strategizing sessions. Everything's going to be beautifully filmed and edited, probably live streamed as well. So thank you, Ocean Birth. And it's going to be a historic conference, because not only will it be, a meeting of some of the biggest change makers and those on the front lines, but then we're going to actually sue the state of Oregon for that constitutional violation that I articulated like 2 minutes ago, right? And that is going to precede a lot of other constitutional litigation in other states. We're going to scale this up big time, but you got to start somewhere. And Oregon is as good a place as any to start. In fact, it's probably much, much better to start in Oregon than elsewhere. Hey, Mountain, quiet, buddy. Quiet. Hey, come here. Okay, dance with me, buddy. Good boy. See, well-trained dogs, definitely. The first AI. Hey, quiet. Good boy. I spoke too soon. So anyway, yeah, good evening, everybody. Jake, great to see you again. Happy to join. Happy for you to be on the stream again. Thank you for telling me that it seems okay. I feel like because it hypothetically could go to 1080 or 4K. And I'm happy to pay for that type of internet service. I just, I'm in Los Angeles, the 90068 zip code. So if any of you viewers want to help me out and say, I want the stream to be at least in higher definition, better is subjective, email me at eric@klopper.com, some internet providers, because I haven't had the time to really get into that. Like, as John said, I do need a day off, but that's okay. I'm not blurry tonight. Let's go, baby. So yeah, because I see what my camera sees, which is, a good camera. But anyway, so as Steve says, I wish I could go, but I'm sad living in New England. We'll definitely watch the streams and uploads. 3 boys and a girl, all intact. Kudos to you, Steve, for protecting your children from this, unnecessary medical violence. It's totally nuts and really bizarre that someone needs to be doing all of this work. And that's not just me. There's an entire intactivist movement, but that we need to be, really pushing this forward. But if we do not step up for these children, no one will. And there are millions, if you include the Islamic community, over 1 billion people laboring under this delusion that you need to mutilate your infant, which is totally nuts. It is totally nuts. And the fact that we are in this timeline, it really kind of boggles the mind. And the fact that we haven't escaped the this sacrificial timeline in 2025, again, it's really stunning. But anyway, next level intactivism. Hello, heroes for babies. Yes. NLI, we still need to talk. I've been working nonstop, but we will connect kind of soon. Oh, yes. And as Oshaber says, Mountain has a lot to say about keeping babies intact. Mountain is my epic puppy. He's about 13 months old, very well trained, very capable of defending the home. And he will live to see the end of genital mutilation in America. I'm pretty confident of it. He's got at least a good 12 years in him. And, he's very opposed to mutilating infants, my dog, Mountain. So as NLI says, we can get lots of media publications if we market correctly. I need help not doing the work of an entire marketing department on my own. I've run myself into the ground every tour when I was doing it. Well, the Klopper Law Firm has some staff now. We have great employees. They're very capable. They don't do the work of attorney, but they could do the peripheral work, like helping with the promotions and stuff. So definitely email me where you could use help at, and maybe Intact Global or the Klopper Law Firm or both could throw some support your way, right? Your physiognomy is very Gentile-like. How did your family become Jewish? Well, I think the question is, how did I become with this physiognomy? And the reality is, it is what it is. So anyway, I see. I don't know if the comments from Instagram are feeding into my StreamYard, but I see Michelle over here. Sexist circumcision promotion, good times, totally epic that you're on the stream. See, I stream to like a whole bunch of different platforms at once, right? So the numbers are a little more impressive. But yes, I appreciate your epic assistance, and of course would love to see you in Portland, Oregon. I realize it's a hike from Woburn or in Massachusetts. So totally understandable if it's not possible, but yeah, that was quite the effort in the event, the 2018 play. I appreciate your great help in making that a success. Obviously Harvard didn't appreciate it, but they don't appreciate the good stuff anyway. So kind of to be expected. So some of the comments as well. Exfination, see if fiber optic is in your area. And NLI, yes, I know. Oh, here's Rachel Suhu. Kept my 2 Jewish boys intact. Let's go, baby. Jewish mom and obstetrics nurse, MVP, Rachel Suhu. Definitely a winner here, because when you're Jewish, you can speak for the community. And also the only argument that that is really employed consistently is, oh, well, it's anti-Semitic to be opposed to cutting off parts of babies, which is totally nuts. It's a total Looney Tunes position. But but Harvard had a much bigger platform than me and was able to end that career on it. So and people will face professional ramifications. Now, it's definitely not like it was. The culture has come a very long way in the 10/7 years, and that's great. But it used to be a lot worse. I had a friend who worked at Bank of America, and he was fired because he gave his boss a movie about circumcision, a DVD, because she was pregnant, and then they fired him for it. And it wasn't like anything egregious or salacious. It was just she didn't want to hear that conflicting information. So anyway, as Oshaber says, Rachel Suhu, great to have you on here. And NLI says, send them our way. We have resources. Can I say that on a stream, Nuck? Well, Nuck, yeah, I know. The Muslims are the biggest circumcising group in the world, which we don't really realize in America. So it's mostly Americans and Muslims who are cutting their children. That's the huge cohort, right? Obviously, in the other religion I grew up in. As Peter Adler said, you spoke truth to power, baby. Yes, well, we got bigger platform now. Sanders Theater was a great platform, but I mean, we're going to actually be suing in state courts the constitutionality of only protecting one class of children, which seems pretty obviously violative of equal protection guarantees in state constitutions. So anyway, yes, Peter Adler, great to have you on. And as Nuck says, potentially Muslim, the Sunnah is not mandatory and likely theologically shaky. So they, meaning Muslims, don't even have to cut it. If you try to speak reason to someone who does something for religious purposes, like religion and reason more or less are, opposing forces. It's like blind faith in the face of conflicting evidence. That is what's rewarded often. So it's hard to get through, unfortunately. And as everyone says, congrats, Mama Rachel, for being a superstar. And my show, Sex and Circumcision piece, was amazing. Definitely helped solidify my decision. So happy to hear that the sacrifice has protected many children. Obviously pretty provocative, but that was the point. If I went up there and tiptoed for a couple hours, people just wouldn't care, right? They'd be like, oh, okay, another guy with who doesn't have the Constitution to stand behind his convictions, right? So yeah, I haven't been accused of that. How do you think the best response to charges that intactivism is anti-Semitic? Well, I think you reframe the issue, because it's not a good faith argument. You say, look, it is anti-Semitic to circumcise babies because you're harming Jewish children. That's what's really anti-Semitic. And that's totally true. It flips it on them, and it's a totally nonsensical non sequitur. It doesn't get off the ground. So if someone calls you anti-Semitic, say, no, you're anti-Semitic because you're promoting harming Jewish babies, right? I think that's the best way to do it. And, we'll go through some more religious comments. I wonder what the algorithms would think. At Nuck, a Muslim friend said that cutting is not in the Quran, which is definitely true, right? It's not in the religious text. And check out Ocean Burst's channel. She's got a bunch of interviews on this, genital cutting of children and why you shouldn't do it, how people have, experienced this issue in their life. And, one more before I learned that I was cut and what circumcision meant, I noticed I had issues. Well, okay. Anyway, let's talk about the purpose of the stream, which is Intact Global's conference coming up March 29 to 31 in Portland, Oregon. It is an event you do not want to miss and cannot afford to miss if you are passionate about the intactivist cause, that is protecting children from harm, specifically the egregious harm of amputating parts of their bodies, of their sex organs at birth, which is incredibly traumatic at the time, harms them for the rest of their life, violates their rights. I mean, it's really something that is so horrific, it's hard to believe that it happens, let alone is super common every day. So here's the clickable link to the conference. So definitely go click on this link. You should be able to click on it. I'm going to also share with you the actual lineup of the conference. I know we've been doing streams for an hour every day. We'll see how far we get. We see how many comments we get through. But anyway, let's pull up the conference because we've got a great lineup of speakers, great lineup of events. So not only is it going to be historic, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a cool event. It's going to be at the beautiful Sentinel Hotel, which has a lot of history in Portland. It's got great character. It's got a great feel. It's got, I think the best hotel catering in the city, right? Jake's Catering. So yeah, let's. So if we go to intact.global/conference, that's also the URL. And if I click here, I think I can share my screen. Share screen. And what we want to do is, here we go. Let's see. This should work. Here we go. Let's go, baby. So this is the conference ticketing page. I highly recommend, if this is a cause that's, you'll speak in front of obstetric nurses. We'll get to that comment soon, Rachel. But this is definitely the event you want to go attend if you're into this movement, right? It's going to be all the leading intactivists, or a great number of them. We're going to have 8 lawyers give presentations. We're going to have panels of Intact Global's board members, the Intact litigators, the Intact Coalition. We're going to have breakout sessions. It's going to be beautifully filmed, beautifully presented, and also then we're going to sue the state of Oregon at the very end. So this is where you can register for the press conference. You don't have to pay to go to the press conference because, there will be catering there too, but it's going to be much less involved than the actual conference, right? And so you can still get early bird tickets here, and you also get the full swag bag. So you get your Intact Global t-shirt, your hat, which I don't have with me, and a canvas bag. And you also could save like almost about $40 a night if you use the group rate down here when you're booking a hotel if you're not local. So yeah, at the conference, there's going to be 2 days of presentations, right? As I mentioned, Jake's Catering, which is a phenomenal catering venue that's built into the Sentinel. It's a luxury hotel, but it's not like prohibitively expensive. It's kind of like a Marriott or Hilton level-esque. Maybe a few bucks more expensive, but since we have that room block, it's kind of about parity, and it's also way nicer, and it's not generic. I know because I got my butt on a plane from Los Angeles to Portland, Oregon, and I checked out 10 different venues with my lead videographer and the lead volunteer in Oregon. So this was a very intentional decision in venue, just like Harvard's, Crown Jewel Sanders Theater. These were intentional decisions. This is a very good, professional, high character place that we're going to host this conference in. So anyway, so here's the lineup on Saturday. So I'll start with, the future of intactivism. We're entering endgame. How do we sue, we're going to sue Oregon imminently, but then how do we sue the next 2, 5, 10, 20 states if we have to? If we had the funding, I can manage that, no problem. Not saying I'll do every lawsuit, but I can definitely oversee them all, not a problem. And so I'll give a talk on, where are we going, right? Then the Intact Global's treasurer, Joe McCormick, is going to talk about, okay, how do we sustain this, right? Because this takes resources. Renting out the hotel at the Sentinel, that costs money. Filing a litigation, a constitutional challenge in Oregon, that costs money. Doing the hundreds of hours of legal research, greatly discounted rates, a lot of it pro bono. Peter Adler's here, who was, a master architect, as was my law clerk at University of Virginia, right? This cost time and money, right? And so how do we sustain this? And if we want to sue Oregon, yeah, we've been able to do that, right? We've floated a lot of pro bono hours. We got it done. But if we want to sue 2 states, we want to sue 4, 6, you name it, we're going to need consistent donations. We're going to need the internet. I'm talking to you sitting on your couch, about to go to sleep. Maybe you're in Thailand and it's, 11 a.m., wherever you are. We need donors, right? And if you donate 5, 10, 20, 100 a month, let's say you're loaded, you donate $1,000 a month, right? We only need, 20, 100 of those type of people. We could sue every nation, every state in the United States and get this to become a national issue, in the immediate future. So again, it's hard to overstate the importance of funding. And McCormick has served on many nonprofits throughout his career. He actually led the first LGBTQT executive search firm. So he placed high-performing individuals who are on the LGBTQT spectrum in important positions his whole life. And then we have Shay Johnson, who's a close friend of mine, lives in the same zip code. He used to manage large activist groups online and Facebook and otherwise. And he's going to talk about, okay, well, how do we create communities, right? Because this is, somewhat one way. I try to engage with as many comments as I can. So definitely comment, whatever platform you're watching this on. And then Will Wong, he did the beautiful Intact Global website, right? Very well developed, very highly functional. I mean, it looks beautiful. It is beautiful. And how do we organize, I should say, how do we organize our tech infrastructure, right? Because a lot of this is going to be a battle fought online, right? In the interwebs. And we need to be coordinated in our efforts. And so Will's going to talk about various strategies, what he's going to do, what other tech individuals can get done. And then we'll have a panel. So you could say, okay, you have questions for Intact Global, like ask us. We're happy to answer. Carter, thus far, is a friend of mine. He knows everything you can know, everything you can know about the foreskin. He'll give a brief little talk on that, hopefully. Tim Hammond will definitely be there. He's the director of GALDEF, right, which is, I wouldn't say sister organization, but we work together, at least on this particular lawsuit. They're helping fund this lawsuit in Oregon. And GALDEF does a lot of great work in supporting different types of legal claims that can arise from medically unnecessary genital cutting. And the exact legal rights violated from medically unnecessary genital cutting will be a topic of a talk the following day by Peter Adler. We'll get to that. We have John Geishiker, who's going to give a presentation. And that's going to be a great talk. He doesn't want the topic released yet, although I know it, and it is super timely. It could be literally like the perfect stroke of genius if it hits, and it totally could. I have great hope. We don't need a silver bullet, but he might have one. And so John Geishiker is the executive director of Doctors Opposing Circumcision. And he's going to have a great talk that I'm very much looking forward to. Michael Abanika, he is a brilliant human rights attorney. He's from Uganda. That's where his practice is, but he also has developed a coalition of human rights attorneys all throughout Africa, and through me, through Tim Hammond and others. We are developing a global coalition, which is within the scope of our efforts to protect all children in the world from unnecessary genital cutting. It is definitely an achievable goal, right? Because America, unfortunately, one of our toxic exports is genital mutilation of children. But if we start fighting within our country and making it known that we actually don't mutilate our kids, and we do that by filing these constitutional challenges, educating the public, educating the courts, educating medical professionals who've labored under the incorrect and totally, let's say, not eccentric, but alone. American medical industry is totally alone in medically mutilating its infants, right? So educating the medical professionals. So anyway, Michael Abanika is going to give a great talk as well, probably about, let's say, how do we create these international networks to really move this along? Then we'll have a panel. So different groups from, representatives from different intactivist groups will, we could talk, how do we work together, right? Because we are here to work together. And I encourage other intactivist groups to reach out to me, which I've mentioned the conference to, Intact America, right? We have Saving Our Sons. We have Norm. We have Your Whole Baby, right? Like, I hope to hear from you. And if I have and I didn't get back to you, I apologize. Email me again. It's not for lack of diligence. I'm telling you, I wouldn't say, kind of redlining, but we're going to survive this conference, and then I'm going to survive my trial right after. And then we're going to take a 2-month vacation, right? so I don't work myself into a premature grave. But anyway, yeah. And so Tony Lasquardo will probably be in this Intact Coalition as well, except he wanted to speak Sunday. And Tony Lasquardo is the director of Intaction, who will also be there. And Intaction does phenomenal work. And they actually have introduced a bill. Since they're a 501c4 Health Equity Campaign Inc., they can do that, not a 501c3, which is something, if you're not a lawyer, you don't have to worry about. But anyway, they have introduced a bill that is going to be voted on imminently in New Hampshire about defunding circumcision for Medicaid, right? Which it should be defunded across the board. On the order of 20 states have already defunded it. But essentially, because it's medically unnecessary, Medicaid shouldn't be paying for it, right? And it's bizarre that it does. And anyway, so that's hopefully he's going to talk about how do we scale that initiative up as well. I see a lot of your comments, actually. So yeah, I will get to those in a second. Let me just get through this. So Zenas Bear, he's going to be the next speaker, and he did he was a trailblazer in this movement. But if you try to do what we're trying to do, what we are doing today in 2025, 30 years ago, you're not going to get that far because the culture wasn't ready to address the ritual and routine genital mutilation of its children, right? There just wasn't enough awareness. There wasn't enough dissemination of information. That's no longer the case. Well, Zenas, who is a legend, actually did fight this good fight about 30 years ago. And because he tried to sue a state and federal court under the federal constitution, in a time when we weren't ready to address this, it wasn't a totally favorable resolution. But he's going to be hopefully getting more involved in intactivist litigation, is what he's relayed to me. So we'd love to hear from him. Then we're going to have a talk from Peter Adler, who's of counsel to the Klopper Law Firm. He's the leading legal scholar in the legal rights that are violated from the routine genital cutting of children, right? How it constitutes constructive fraud, breach of fiduciary duty. It's a battery, probably an assault. So, and he's going to talk about the different legal rights that a doctor violates when he performs a medically unnecessary amputation on a child, right? And if a legal right is violated, there's a legal remedy. I think Blackwell said that, the justice. And anyway, what it essentially means is you can sue people if they circumcise you. And you should be able to win without a trial because it is so obvious a violation of legal rights. But again, lawsuits take a lot of time and money and effort. So it's like, well, if it's so simple, why hasn't it been done? Well, it requires a huge moving force and a huge investment, time, energy, and money, right? When I sued Harvard and brought it all the way up to the Supreme Court, yeah, I wasn't an attorney yet, but it took an incredible amount of my time, and I was full-time at Georgetown Law, so I was learning to do it. So I was like, okay, free legal experience, right? I got a claim, baby. So yeah, it just takes a lot, and so that's why this movement needs to gain more ground. And then we have Brad Kane, who's a brilliant political strategist. I also learned how to litigate under him at the Kane Law Firm before I started the Klopper Law Firm. They both have some good. I like those last names, like Klopper and Kane. And so he'll talk about the messaging, right? It's not, oh, don't mutilate your infant sex organs, right? That's really inflammatory. And although, fair enough, we need to protect all children, right? We need to protect all children from harm. We don't need to talk about like the specifics of where we're harming them and how much blood is being spilled, although those are real harms that are happening. Like what is most effective, right? So anyway, and then we have John Silla, great friend of mine, had lunch with today, and he is likely going to talk about it's not just about good messaging, but how do we make it cool, assumed, and normal to be an activist? Yeah, it's cool, like to be with us and not against us. It is cool to protect children. It is normal not to cut them. It is assumed that you are opposed to ritually or medically mutilating infants. Like that is what we need. This movement needs to be cool, assumed, and normal. And that is what we are as activists. The only reason we have to put a label on it is because we're in America, right? And America has a lot of great things, but obviously we have, a lot of problems. And the routine genital cutting and amputation of our children is one of it's a massive problem. It's hard to think of a bigger problem. It is such an egregious assault on the most vulnerable among us. It's such an egregious, intimate, and potentially fatal, but always maiming. It's just outrageous. So anyway, so as Lauren Elise says, I'm a Trump supporter. Politics has nothing to do with genital mutilation. Totally agree. It's a nonpartisan issue, right? So then we're going to end the conference with a panel of all the lawyers. I'll give a final speech, and then we're going to have a founders dinner, which is at the Multnomah Whiskey Lounge. It's super nice, kind of bougie, underground, speakeasy-esque whiskey lounge. Great food as well. There's a limit of 22, and I think we're pushing up against that limit now. So if you're interested in attending, then definitely get the founders dinner ticket. You can get it up here. These are optional events, and then we'll end with a champagne brunch after the press conference on Monday morning, where we'll actually announce the lawsuit. We'll file it and then announce it, and then the lawyers and plaintiffs will give some talks, maybe some politicians and some doctors as well. So anyway, I know that I put you guys on ice for a little. Let me get to the comments. My apologies. Rachel Suhu says, are you able to speak in front of obstetric nurses somehow? When I came across a couple that didn't have their minds made up yet about circumcision, I had an opening to speak with them. Well, if I remember correctly, you're a Jewish obstetric nurse, so you are a total absolute legend who is well positioned to speak on this. So if you want to come to the conference and give a, TED style talk, Rachel, definitely ping me, eric@klopper.com. We could talk about your experiences, how you get through, how do we communicate with that community, like the obstetric nurses, because that is definitely a high, a very important cohort of individuals that we want to reach with this message. Like, what's best for the child? Obviously not holding them down and performing unnecessary surgeries and amputations, but someone with your credentials and background, well, your voice carries a lot of weight to a lot of people. So something to think about. As Peter Adler said, a young surgeon told me his friends have been influenced by our movement and refuse to perform circumcisions, which is great, right? We need doctors of integrity who stop doing this. So again, before I go straight to the comments, get your ticket here. You're going to go to Ticket Tailor, which is cheaper than, it takes less fees than Eventbrite, and, sign up, right? If you want to do the optional events, go through the motions, sign up, and I look forward to meeting you there. So anyway, Andrew S. says, circumcision is like color blindness. I feel like I'm in the twilight zone. Can't believe parents do this. It is a very Twilight Zone activity. It's totally nuts. It makes absolutely no sense. It's like everyone cutting off noses and then saying, what? Oh, like you're the weird one for having a nose, like, or an eyelid, or, fingers. It's just totally outrageous. And that doctor should be sued for fraud. Well, GalDef is definitely considering funding such lawsuits, from my understanding. I would double check on their website, but I got a pretty good grasp on their mission nonetheless. It's definitely an argument. I don't think that Intact Global is pursuing it at present. Doctors are they're harder targets, right? They have more money. They have more clout with the judiciary than they do, let's say, state entities that my law firm and Oregonian law firm are suing. And they'll spend any amount of money to win. So they'll hire huge law firms with huge resources, and you can make it difficult to litigate by, filing a lot of motions and objections and you name it. So that's often a tactic as well. NLI, if you need any speakers, I'd like to volunteer. I have lots to say that needs to be heard. Why don't you, I know I keep saying this, Daniel, but definitely email me, and I will probably get back to you this weekend. I'm just catching up on other work because I was preparing for a big trial. And so, this intactivism I'm really passionate about. I do literally a live every day and hosting a massive conference and then suing the state of Oregon after losing my Harvard career and then going to law school to pursue this. So, I am totally in. I'm 100%. At the same time, I've got professional obligations to clients, and we got to win our cases, right? That's really, that's what feeds the beast. That's how we pay for everything. The new office, the lawsuit, the conference. I mean, your donations are appreciated, and the only way we're going to win is if we work together, which means becoming a monthly donor to Intact Global, attending the conference, volunteering your skills, you name it. But if you needed to prime the pump, which I'm happy to do, it's like, let's do what needs to be done to show the public that we can do this, which we totally can. So yeah, email me at eric@clopper.com, what you want to talk about. We're going to have a bunch of breakout sessions, I think, as well. So NLI may need a 4-hour block, though. That's funny. We'll see what we can do. So mad I can't make it, but I'll be with you all in spirit. Thank you so much, Lauren. Well, we're going to try to live stream the whole event as well. As Jake said, back in my early 20s, I got a vasectomy. The urologist was like, "You're still pretty young." I responded with, "Well, at birth, I wasn't too young to be circumcised," right? Which is a great response. Totally nuts that, again, totally nuts. But I wish I could go to the conference, but work and little kids make that impossible. Totally fair, Rachel. I appreciate you getting back to me. Yes, it's all going to be professionally filmed. We'll have at least 2 professional videographers, maybe 3, and then a live streamer, Ocean Birth, who's also professional in that world. And so we're going to have it all live streamed, and then we're going to film not just the presentations, but also interviews with attendees as to why they're an activist, why this is important or critical, I should say, to the welfare of our children and society. And then we have a professional video company already teed up to edit all the content we make, and they are run by an activist as well. So we're going to get a hardcore charity rate. Maddie, glad you're saying I fixed the stream. And let me tell you, I've done absolutely nothing different, not a single thing at all, right? So I think that my provider just provides variable upload and download speeds, honestly. I will switch to a provider that has a more consistently high upload speed, but I can only do so much every day. So John asks, how do you head off the argument that boys don't have the same parts? Well, if you look at a baby boy or a baby girl in utero, we all start out as a baby girl, with female genitals in utero, and then through different hormones, we develop a penis as opposed to a vulva, or you name it. But the reality is we do have the same parts. They're what's called homologous, so they come from the same structures in utero, but they're just arranged differently. So the head of the penis is homologous to the clitoris. The foreskin is homologous to the clitoral hood, and it's already illegal to cut or remove the clitoral hood. So why would it not be illegal to cut the much larger and more densely innervated foreskin of the male, right? That's, one of the major arguments. So, and also, shouldn't all children be equally protected? I know I'm preaching to the choir, John, and that you agree, but as Andrew says, if doctors get away with this circumcision fraud, I wonder what else they get away with. Well, that's true. There's definitely a lot of fraud in the medical industry. And I've definitely been involved in some litigation against hospitals committing that. So, it's something that happens all the time. And you got to pick your battles, right? Hopefully, there's a new kind of enthusiasm to cutting waste and fraud. And so maybe that will help. And honestly, these AI tools are totally outrageously good. And so the reality is with a properly programmed, AI LLM with the right context window, it can look at boatloads of billings and, let's say healthcare providers, what they bill for, what they're doing with each patient, and probably identify discrepancies and, potentially fraudulent billing. And it might be able to way to identify fraud much more quickly. So as Potts says, Eric is going to make activism great again. That's, I like that. Maybe we'll get a hat. I don't know if that's going to trigger anyone, but, it hasn't stopped me before, baby. Make activism great again. I think we need to make it into activism, because it's like, okay, activism for what, right? But I like the phrasing. I like building on the zeitgeist. I have a friend today who's making a meme coin, and he made one of me, which is epic. I appreciate that. Thank you, Will. So NLI says, we are creating a certification for educating midwives and doulas. We call it the IFC, or Intact Friendly Midwives and Doulas. Wait, Intact Friendly Certified Midwives and Doulas. So that'd be IFCMD. Yeah, that's a tough acronym. And we need educators to film scripted educational courses. So obstetric nurse is not my ugly mug. That's funny. So the reality is, yeah, totally. I mean, I think Rachel might, be worth reaching out to if she wants to put her contact info in the stream. And as Oshabur says, definitely subscribe to my channel. Turn on notifications. We're going to see if we can get this up to 10,000 subscribers, at least on YouTube, by the time the conference goes live. That would be epic progress, right? I've been talking with a YouTuber today that has, hold your breath, just about 3 million subscribers, who's like, let's do a video, right? And that's what we need. People with major platforms with integrity who are like, I want to expose this fraud and abuse against children. It's just straight up violence. So yeah, we're making huge progress. And this complaint is epic. It is an exceptionally strong piece of legal writing and research. It's like, and one of the major authors has won appellate writing awards at one of the top law schools in the world. So it's, but when I read it, I'm like, wow. Right, because I've been in this for a while, so I know good legal writing when I see it. So yeah, definitely subscribe to my channel, or whatever channel you're watching on, and definitely my YouTube as well. So John, can we do a mock trial in a law school? Maybe Peter Adler can make it happen. It's definitely something we're open to. I'm not sure. I think Peter's now just litigating, not teaching anymore, which I appreciate. But yeah, maybe it's something we could do. It depends what type of cause of action we're talking about. As Peter will talk about or discuss at the conference, there's a whole bunch of different claims you can bring, right? A claim is like, you've had a legal right violated. How do you pursue it? Breach of contract could be one, or, personal injury. Somebody breaks your leg. You probably, they drive into you or whatever. So, or somebody cuts off part of your body without consent. So as Gregory says, Carter Steinhoff has focused on the significant difference between rates of appendectomy, tonsil, mastoid, and adenoid removals and wisdom teeth removals between Europe and the USA. I'm almost certain that USA has much higher rates because we have a for-profit healthcare system, not for healthcare system, right? So the incentive is to perform as many procedures as you can. And if it harms the patient, well, that's secondary because we're trying to make as much money, unfortunately. So yeah, I want to wrap up this soon, but I see that we have Neil. Great to see you again, Neil. Without getting too personal, I assume you're cut. What made the light go off and realize that circumcision was wrong? Are there states that may ban it? Well, this might be a different Neil than I was thinking of. But yeah, dude, I made a 2-hour play at Harvard about how I was cut, not happy about it. So not that big a secret, right? But yeah, so what made the lights go on? Why I grew up with a Jewish background, Jewish, and I was reading why rabbis would cut babies. And their express purpose, at least a lot of them in the past, was to harm their sexuality, to make sure you bleed the organ, to weaken the male sexuality. Some of it was to harm female sexuality as well, because the penis doesn't function as well when you remove 50% of the skin and all the mobile skin. And so I was like, okay, this is what the actual religious justification was for this. And they had no pretense of health or whatever. And that's what, 99% of the history of circumcision was, to maim children in a religious sense, or sacrifice to the gods. And that's really what made the lights turn on for me, to be like, oh my God, this is horrifically evil. And then I looked into the guidance that has now expired. American Academy of Pediatrics, I'm talking to you. they used to promote it just so medical insurers would actually pay for it, right? They didn't say you should do it, but they said you should pay for it. That's a big difference. And they don't even defend that position anymore. And then when you look at mainstream media, they all cited the AAP, and you look at the AAP and their opinion makes no freaking sense whatsoever. The benefits outweigh the risks, but they don't know what the risks are. They don't talk about the loss of the foreskin and the function, and the benefits don't hold up to scrutiny. So, I looked at all this and I was like, you know what? This is a total scam. And you look at the historical justifications to harm children, prevent them from masturbating. And then the rest of the world doesn't do it, or at least Europe, Central and South America, Asia, Australia, New Zealand. So maybe the Muslims in large parts of Africa mutilate their kids, but, I'm not aspiring to be, their ethics are questionable at best. Actually, they're horrific, and we don't aspire to them. I don't know if you hear that squeaking, but that's my buddy Mountain saying, "Play with me." So anyway, yeah, definitely subscribe to my channel. We're trying to get to 10K on YouTube by the time that this conference rolls around, which would be epic. And definitely get your ticket to AAP enters chat. That's funny. I hope so, baby. I'd love to have a debate with one of them, but they're cowards for the most part. I think for the entire part. But anyway, definitely check out this link, intactglobal.org/events/2025-intact-global-conference. Hope you Pupper definitely wants attention, but I hope you can make it to the conference March 29 to 31. If that's a clickable link, definitely click on that. We're getting good ticket sales. It's going to be well attended. It's going to be well executed. You're going to meet at least 8, probably more lawyers on the front lines of this movement. Definitely the president of GalDef and Intaction, other leaders. We're going to strategize. We're going to have breakout sessions. We're going to have strategy sessions. We're going to synchronize our clocks. We're going to have a great reception, a founders dinner for those of you who do that. And then we're going to have a press conference in the Courtyard Square with some speeches. It's going to be epic, right? And it's all going to be well filmed, well produced. I very much look forward to it. And then, we have some final comments. I wonder how circumcised men trick themselves. Well, it's a mass delusion, which is, you say, oh, you're the deluded one. Well, look at the rest of the world. We don't do it, right? They don't cut their babies. So it's a psychological problem largely. As Potts says, I think they gave up forever ago, to be honest. They aren't even trying to revise the AAP, the American Academy of Pediatrics. And as Potts says, the goal is wide open for activism. Totally. That's why we're going, totally blazing with the Oregon lawsuit and hopefully other lawsuits. And Mountain is a boy. That's the final question. So subscribe to my channel. I hope you can all make it to the conference. And thank you for joining the live chat. I will be back tomorrow. I love and appreciate you all. And definitely get tickets. So again, subscribe to my channel, come to the conference, and ping me if you want to be a speaker or, if you need help figuring out how to buy the tickets. So anyway, love you all, and I'll be back tomorrow. Bye, guys.